We are here, we're called to order now. We are here to consider a request to entertain a single issue that was brought to us by the Sheriff's Office to consider a rehire request for 2 vacancies in the Sheriff's Department. This is in accordance with Resolution 2020-18, which the County Council passed back in April, which required all departments to seek our permission before rehiring any positions. So one of the provisions in that resolution was the ability for the council to call a special meeting for any department who had a desire for that request. So we would do this for any county government department that might have a hiring request for us to consider. So I know our sheriff is here. Welcome, Sheriff Swain. Just wanted to now turn it over to you to allow you to address council. Thank you very much. And
yeah, Eric, okay. Is that coming through now?
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Okay. I want to start off by giving you some good news in that I applied for a grant related to COVID and was awarded $58,000 to address needs within the Justice Building. We won't go into details, but we have some pretty expensive items to help with COVID and also any other viruses we might have in the future. And I'll address that further later on, but I wanted to start off with letting you know we received that information yesterday. Given there's still a lot of unknowns on the budget and where we're at, I've decided to push pause on making this request for today. I understand that since a meeting was called to order, that we need to do this formally. So at this point, I wish to just press pause on this request until more information is made available on our budget.
Thank you, Sheriff Swain. So it sounds like this will, the request has been withdrawn for now. And again, I appreciate you following the process that we outlined in the resolution. I think maybe we might want to, consider the need for special meetings in the future, but Sheriff Swain certainly did follow the process that we had outlined there in the resolution. But are there any questions from council or comments? I'll start with Mr. McKim. I see your hand first.
Thank you, President Spoonmore. And I want to address the timing and the schedule, both to kind of explain. Because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding and apprehension on the part of the public that's quite legitimate, but because there's and also because I think there's a lesson that we need to learn here. But first of all, my understanding is that the sheriff actually let the council, or at least let staff know last month that at least one of these hires was actually already in process, and so that when the council passed the hiring freeze resolution. So now fast forward, the sheriff makes a request for exemption. This is, as Mr. Spoonmore mentioned, this is a process that the council laid out when we first created the hiring freeze. Several other departments, it's not specific to the sheriff's office. Several other departments have already successfully made use of this process, requested and received exemptions from the hiring freeze. At some point last week, I believe, the request was made to add this to the agenda. And the public meeting actually was publicly noticed to the media and officially scheduled last Thursday. Okay, and that's we have that. And I've gone back through and looked at all the memos we've received. In the and I'm sorry to go into so much detail, but it's actually important. The memo or the message that we received on the council that told us that the special meeting was being requested mentioned that it was to us that it was a time-sensitive request from the sheriff's office. However, the memo, the official legal notice that went to the press actually just said that it was a special meeting of the county council with no context whatsoever. Now, fast forward to, I believe, yesterday, in which the official agenda was actually sent out and published, and that agenda had that it was that it was specifically about rehires. So, from the sheriff's perspective, this request had gone in a month ago. From our perspective, it had gone in last Thursday. But from the public's perspective, they're only learning about it now. And that's why, even though and this is well documented, this is all, all in writing, this happened well before any protest was considered, that from the public's perspective, yeah, it came out, this looks like an emergency, even though it was actually scheduled significantly before. So yeah, I can see why the public would think that this came across as an emergency. And I think the reason why I'm going into so much detail here is that I think we need to start understanding how information about our meetings gets distributed and how we can do a better job of getting things out to the public beyond just the legally required notice, because the legally required notice basically says nothing. It just says there's a special meeting scheduled for the county council. And so I think we need to think about every time we schedule a meeting for anything, we need to make sure that we are really careful about getting the details about why this meeting is being scheduled and what's on the agenda as early as we possibly can and through as many channels as we can. So thank you for indulging me on this, but I do think it's important.
Thank you, Councilor McKim. Since I can't see all council members on my screen right now, and I don't want to kind of scroll back and forth, I'm just going to call names, and when I call your name, please feel free to speak. And if you want to come back and give comments later, that's fine. We'll come back to you. Mr. Iverson.
All right, thank you for unmuting me. It is so good to see so many people here expressing their democratic voices today at the meeting. I am very happy to see that we have over 220 people joining this democratic body as we discuss issues that relate to our shared public safety. This is a tough time. The murder of George Floyd was sickening to watch. It should not have happened. And we know that too many people in our Black and brown communities have suffered. The tragedies surrounding the murders of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery are just the latest in incidents where innocent individuals were brutally murdered. I'm mourning their loss. I know that's not enough. So I welcome this conversation today. I've been reading a lot about this issue. I've been reaching out to people in the community about this issue so that we can continue to have conversations about how to improve our community. And I encourage you all to do the same. I look forward to making additional comments later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iverson. Mr. Deckard. Mr. Deckard.
All right, thank you very much. I was waiting there to get unmuted. I want to thank the sheriff for withdrawing the request. I think we have seen a tremendous public outcry regarding everything that is going on right now in this community and in this country. And folks are absolutely outraged. Folks are grieving. This community is grieving horrifically, and we need a pause. We also need to figure out what we as public officials have to be doing to address systematic racism that exists in our society and in our systems, and ask the tough questions. And I think that today's withdrawal reflects the need that we have to be absolutely overwhelmingly cognizant that every aspect of public service is a part of accountability to both the public and to ourselves, in making sure that we are bringing public policy along in a way that is fitting of what folks need. So I'm grateful that the sheriff was withdrawn this, and I think it's appropriate for this time as we continue to grieve and we deal with the outrage that we have over what has occurred with Mr. Floyd.
Thank you, Mr. Deckard. Ms. Hawk, would you like to speak?
This is another tough step on the way to creating what we all had supported for years, which was a safe and civil community. Not just safe, but also civil. And so I look forward to hearing from the people that want to speak today and to see how we can come together as a community to make certain that we are safe and that we are civil.
Thank you. Ms. Wiltz, Councilmember Wiltz.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Eric. I'm really overwhelmed by how many people are on the meeting, and thank you for being here and expressing your opinions. I'm watching the chat, and it's really impressive. You know, I've been thinking a lot about this particular meeting in the past few days, and you just can't help but go to the fact that recent violent murders have brought communities across our country to their knees, and many of us are horrified and even struck dumb by the inhumanity that surrounds us. I'm even unsure of what to say and how to help. I do know that right now, right here, is not the time to continue business as usual in law enforcement. Our Black and brown neighbors have been devalued and dehumanized by our white institutions, and we, in our whiteness, have a reckoning that we need to address. And I'm not going to get this right, but I am going to do the work. I know that Monroe County's deputies are well trained, and I trust that they are doing what they can to uphold the peace in our community. I'm committed to working hard to build a system of supports that they deserve. Our community wants justice reform, that's clear. This council has invested in an examination of our local justice system, and our goal is change towards a system that supports and protects those who need it most. We're aware that we have the responsibility as stewards of citizen tax dollars to use both our hearts and our minds strategically and ethically to shape that change. And in the midst of a public health crisis and against the backdrop of militarized policing, all of us should feel encouraged to contemplate this long overdue heightened awareness that we have of the disproportionate privilege that we have as white citizens. And I'm, like I said, I'm here. I'm going to wait on the data that we need to make the decisions about justice reform locally that we need to make. And Black Lives Matter.
Thank you, Councilor Wiltz. Is Ms. Munson, is Councilmember Munson on the line yet, or?
I saw her,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi,
Can you
Councilor
hear
Munson.
me?
Yes, yes.
Good. I'm very sorry that I'm late to this meeting. I was planning to attend on my laptop, but my cat ate my power cord. And while that's funny, it's just very frustrating to come in at the tail end of discussions today. When I got my phone working, I could read many comments from people who have signed on to the Zoom meeting. And additionally, I read many comments this morning from people who took time to write to us. And I want to thank everybody for doing that, because we always need to hear from you. But at the same time, I'm very concerned that there is a misunderstanding about the request from the sheriff's office and what the sheriff's department does. First of all, the sheriff's department does not use the Bearcat. The Bearcat is something operated by the City of Bloomington Police, and it is not operated by the sheriff's department. Second, this request came about before there was real concern about how we should be responding in our own community to the tragedy that took place in Minneapolis and to the tragedies that are taking place across the country, as demonstrations are not always peaceful. So I want to second what Ms. Wiltz just said. Our community has invested greatly in examining our entire justice system, not the sheriff's department, not just the jail, not just the courts, not just probation, not just community corrections. We've examined all of this, and we are in the process of awaiting a report from the people who have carried out this study over, I think, 18 months. And we need to examine this very carefully and discuss this. This will be part of something that the community also discusses. So I want to thank the sheriff for withdrawing his request to fill vacancies on his staff. I'm concerned that our sheriff's department has the staff that they feel they need, because I hear from my immediate neighbors in the rural areas of this county. These are the people who are served by our sheriff's department. The sheriff does not handle police work in the city of Bloomington. So those are words that I hope will offer a bit of clarification. And I hope we can continue to hear from everybody, but also have people examine what issues are really pertinent to them and to be focusing and discussing those. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Munson. So I've got a few remarks here that I'll make, but first I kind of want to pose a question to council. I've got a little bit of a kind of a conundrum here. We're not going to have anything to vote on, but we clearly have a great number of residents here. I'm reading through the comments, and I appreciate all those. I appreciate everybody showing up. Is this an opportunity now that we want to take public comment on? I announced at the beginning of the meeting that if we didn't have anything to vote on, we likely would not have a period of public comment. I have another obligation at 2 p.m. that I just cannot get out of for my job, my other job, and I have to be there for that. So I unfortunately would miss out. I think there's probably a lot of people that like to talk, and I would miss out on a lot of those important comments. And I apologize for that in advance if we decide to do this. Otherwise, you know, the other option that I'm thinking is we may want to schedule just a town hall where folks can, a virtual town hall where we can really understand better how people are feeling. That may be a direction we want to go into. So I'll let you all think about that, and then we'll kind of revisit. But again, I just appreciate everybody who is here today and who cares so much about this, these issues that are happening. This level of engagement is necessary. It's good and necessary in a democracy, and we need to be hearing from residents. Resident input is of utmost importance to me in my decision making on matters of public policy. And that's the way it should be, I think. And so I appreciate all of it. I received a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls at all hours of the day and early morning and so forth. And I haven't had a chance to reply to all of those, but I want you all to hear now that I've received them, I've read them, and I appreciate them. So thank you very much. I agree with others that have said that, we should be looking at this issue, and I would prefer to take a very strategic approach to how we look at resourcing law enforcement operations. And I think that's best done in consultation with experts, including our law enforcement personnel, as well as those who really work on all sides of the criminal justice spectrum. And so we really need to be taking all of those considerations into account. And I do look forward to receiving the criminal justice report that we commissioned and seeing what those recommendations might be. I think that would be great to be consulting a report of that nature as we're thinking about strategic ways of resourcing our law enforcement operations. So, clearly this will have budget impacts down the road. That's our role as the fiscal body of county council. We don't have a legislative role. We simply make fiscal decisions and respond to these types of requests that are brought to us. And again, I want to thank the sheriff for following the process that he was asked to follow. And he's been just very pleasure to work with him over the years and on this issue as well. So I appreciate his work with the council. So at this point, I want to. Are there other comments? Yes, Ms. Welts, I see your hand.
Thank you, Eric. I have two things. First, I would like to ask Sheriff Swain what the next steps in his mind are. Pushing pause can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and I'd like to hear what it means here for this situation. And also just regarding what you mentioned about the town hall, I think that's a good idea. I have my calendar open for the next 30 minutes, so I'm happy to include as much public comment as we can fit in that time. That's my 2 cents. But if we could hear from the sheriff, that would be great.
Thank you.
Okay. There just seemed to be a concern about making sure that fiscally we're in a good spot, and I understand that some more information will be coming forward in the near future. So I'm able to wait some time. I am pressed for time with the academy, which due to a lot of the reason for my request is more related to the COVID situation that we're addressing. The police academy now is very strict on when people are allowed to gain a spot at the academy, and we have to have a deputy on the payroll to get a place in the academy. And with the new academy coming up in just a few weeks, I wanted to have this deputy, this new hire, which is filling an already existing position. These are not brand new positions, I want to clarify. We need to have him on the payroll in time to attend the academy. And with the COVID creating a potential backlog at the center, there's a chance that I don't know when that deputy would be able to be placed into the academy roster. And the other position is a deputy who left to work at another agency just a couple of weeks ago, decided he didn't like it, and wants to return and fill the position he vacated. We've had a few officers that have done that, left, gone somewhere and realized that this was a good place to live and a good place to work. And so that deputy, who I can just put back into service immediately, when I get this position filled, it will work well for him to have employment again, as well as help the public safety of our community.
Thank you, Sheriff Swain. Are there any other questions or comments at this point? And do we want, how do we want to, yes, Ms. Munson?
Yes, is there a motion on the table?
There is no motion.
Okay, thank you. Before we adjourn this meeting, I would like to offer a motion.
Okay,
I move that we establish a time and place for a town hall meeting to allow a conversation about law enforcement in our community. And we can't set the date or time or place now, but I urge you to adopt this step. Thank you.
thank you for your motion. So we have a motion on the floor. And it looks like everybody's muted. Does anybody, would anybody like to second? You can raise your hand. We got a second from Councilmember Wilt, is that right? Okay, she's nodding yes. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on Councilmember Munson's motion to determine a time and place where we could have hold a town hall meeting to have some meaningful discussion on this issue? This may be something that we could add to our agenda for Tuesday, and we could come up with a good time for that. Who would like to speak first? Mr. McKim, I saw your hand first.
There, I could not unmute myself before. I'm certainly fine with having a town hall meeting. I do not think it should be shoehorned into a regular meeting. I think that it would.
No, right. What I meant was determining the best time and place and venue for that. That would be something we could decide.
I see. Okay. So
Yep.
sorry, I misunderstood. Okay. No, that certainly makes sense. I'm in favor of that. Black Lives Matter.
Okay. Mr. Deckard?
I agree completely with doing this as its own separate meeting at a time that is well publicized. 1 p.m. on a Tuesday as a scheduled meeting was a response to what we had in our hiring freeze resolution. And I think that where we take discussion should be, or take town hall discussion where we listen, is exceedingly important that we do that on a time that is convenient for as many citizens, many folks in this community as possible. I think that this community has learned a lot through what the city went through in the Bearcat discussion problem and intense discussion a few years back. And I think that we need to be extremely cognizant of that as we do what we're doing. The other thing is that I agree with Mr. McKim and Kate Wiltz, Black lives do matter. And I start every day on this council being fully aware that my experience as a person in this community is very different from people of color that I represent on this council and in this community. And so I know that there is a lot of trauma that has occurred as a result of everything that we're undergoing in the country. And I want our community to do what we can to relieve trauma locally. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deckard. Mr. Iverson? We can't hear you.
He's unmuted.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right. So again, Thank you. There are over 250 people in this meeting right now. This is very important to the health of our community and our democracy. Let me be very, very clear. Black Lives Matter. This is absolutely unprecedented, what is going on in our community and in our nation. And it is very, very important that we have this conversation. I am supportive of the motion, and I look forward to continuing conversation to not only make Monroe County better, but the surrounding areas as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other questions or comments? Did I see your hand, Ms. Wiltz?
Call the question.
Okay. So this is on so essentially the motion was, do we want to hold a town hall? And we would then decide the time and venue for that at our Tuesday regular session meeting. Who do we have calling the roll? Okay. We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Okay, go ahead. Councilor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Councilor Hawk, Councilor Hawk,
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz,
Yes.
Councilor McKen,
Yes.
Councilor Munson,
Yes.
Councilor Deckard, Councilor Deckard,
Yes, I was muted, sorry.
Councilor Iverson, Councilor Iverson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Okay. Thank you. And Ms. Shell, and we will just add that as an agenda item to our regular session meeting on Tuesday for a discussion to determine when that town hall meeting will occur. Yes, Ms.
Okay.
Wiltz?
Now we have 40 minutes left. If at all possible, I'd like to hear from people, and given that we can't hear from everybody, maybe we could prioritize people of color in the public comment for the rest of the time.
That is,
I don't even know how we would do that.
Megan and I have another engagement that we need to be at here shortly, so we would have to leave the meeting, which we technically can't do because we're supposed to stay on as long as you guys are on. So that's our conundrum here on our end.
I would like to be able, at the very least, to record and have a full record of all the comments in the group chat. Is that possible to do, Mr.
Yes,
Evans?
yes, that's been saved.
Okay. Thank you very much. So it sounds like there may not be the ability to do public, or can we have?
We can do public comment. It's just, how am I going to decide who's black enough to talk? You know, I mean, we need for someone to make that decision.
152 people.
That was
Okay.
such a racist comment.
Mr. Iverson?
I would like, Mr. Chairman, for you to recognize Jada B., who is with Black Lives Matter, and I think she might have some insight into how we can move forward with public comment.
Yes, sure. Do we have the ability to give?
Yeah, she's on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm unmuted. Hi, my name is Jada B. I am a member of the core council of Black Lives Matter Bloomington. As you can tell, that this is a very heated conversation right now. It seems like, as outlined by the sheriff, through his own words, that these are not emergency situations that we are talking about. These are not emergency situations. And I think that it is interesting timing, given that there is a huge rally happening on Friday, and that there has been major unrest in Indianapolis. I would like to speak very specifically to the comments that I heard earlier about protests turning violent. All of the protests have been peaceful until the police turned them violent. All of them have been peaceful until the police turned them violent. This is being published on the news every single day. If you want to take public comment about whether or not to move forward with the vote for these two people, for these two officers, I think that that's a great idea. But I think that public comment has to be listened to, and the public sentiment of Bloomingtonians has to be heard. Unlike with the Bearcat, unlike with other decisions that the council has made, either the city council or the county council has made about things, we need to be very sure that we are listening not just to the community, but also to those most vulnerable within the community, meaning Black voices, Black queer voices, Black trans voices, because what happens is that we are so often overlooked in these conversations. We are so often underrepresented. In the council itself, we are not represented on any level in terms of the diversity within the county council. And this is, how many black deputies do you have, Sheriff? How many Black cops are there on even the police force? Are we even listening to those people too? So this is all interconnected. It's all interwoven together. And I also have to say that while we do not have the same violence numbers that IMPD has, we do have higher arrest rates for African Americans, Black people in this county, in this town, than they do in Indianapolis. Maybe there's a less use of force, but we are still being targeted at higher rates than white people in this town. And so there is a clear bias with our police force. That information comes from the police force, comes from your data. It comes from your data, directly taken from your data, from the UU Church, the Racial Task Force on Racial Justice at the UU Church, compiling that data. All they did was add things together and get percentages. Okay, and so this is important. All of these people here are here for one reason only, and that's to tell you we do not need more cops. We do not need more policing. We need less policing, and we need more legislation to protect people of color and less policing. This is the problems that you're seeing in all over the country. Black communities are being over-policed. They're being over-militarized. The police are over-militarized and causing these problems. These protests would be completely peaceful if the police did not insert themselves with tear gas, beating people, shooting people, killing people who are unarmed. We have video surveillance of police putting bricks in the pathway of protesters to use to vandalize. There are people who have been identifying police putting informants and infiltrators into the mix of these protests. We know that this is not about your immediate need for COVID concerns. We know that that's not true. Okay, so that is a misnomer that you are using as an excuse. You have an impetus, you think that there's going to be a riot happening, when the reality is that everything that we hear, Friday's protest and our Black Lives Matter, our digital protest on Saturday, is not going to involve violence. We are not violent people. Black people do not commit violence in the way that y'all think that we do, especially when we're protesting for our rights. And so I just urge everyone on the county council to, if you want to do a public comment section, that public comment prioritizes Black and brown voices.
Yes, thank you, Ms. B. Thank you for your comments. And I agree, in order for us to do this in a way, I think that's going to be, very productive, we need to have the time to commit to the discussion. It's a very, very important discussion. And I think we need to get this scheduled as quickly as possible. So I think the town hall will be a really great venue to have this community discussion.
And there are other people in the chat, Lauren McAllister, as well as Janae, that you should call on. Michelle Moyd is also in the chat if you want to hear from other community leaders who are Black.
Yes. So I know that we have, and I do want to hear from people. I want to hear from as many as we can here in the next 14 minutes. We do have some council members that need, including myself. I unfortunately, I do have to sign off right at 2 o'clock. I've got a hard stop. But I want to continue to hear as much of this discussion as we can. So I think the plan will be to just, I'm going to leave at 2. We should probably, I would like to stop the meeting at 2 if that's possible, and then we'll reconvene this discussion at the town hall. Would that be okay, or do people want to continue to go without the chair present? Do council members have any?
I mean, I can keep the room open for as long as we want. It's up to you guys. I would ask that if we do continue on, that the people that want to talk use the raise hand function, because that'll move them to the top of my list so that I can pick them out easier.
Okay, so who would like to go first? Do we have any raised hands right now? We'll try to.
McAllister, let's get her. You're on.
Well,
Lauren.
this has been embarrassing. This has been embarrassing. I have taken time like you have. I've listened. I've been patient. I've raised my hand. While you're examining data, we're dying. While you've withdrawn this request, we're still dying. While you're talking about respectability politics and civility, we are dying. The idea that you want to rehire, that you want to bring in new law enforcement at any level is what the council is here to vote no about. The council can take the step to vote no now. I would like the withdrawal to be put aside and for the council to say no to any hires of any kind moving forward. My tax dollars, our tax dollars, pay for those positions. These positions do not need to be filled. The murdering of Black people has always happened. This is not new news. The withdrawal of this request only allows you to reorganize and reset a meeting that we don't know about, so we can't show up in the numbers we've done today, which we will continue to do, by the way, which we will continue to do, because I see the other people on this call shaking their head. We will again show up to request that the board, the council, votes no. There will be no movement forward on hiring any police from now forward. I'm encouraging all of us to continue to write, send emails, call all of the council so that they feel and understand that we don't have the time to examine data, we're dying. We don't have the time to be civil and respectable, we're dying. Wait a second, there was one more thing. And that although you're done at 2 o'clock, you have a hard stop, Black people dying is my hard stop. Police murdering Black people is my hard stop. I'm gonna go now back to my job while I still have it. Thank you for your time. I'd like to pass it on to Michelle Moy.
Thank you, Ms. McAllister.
Could Michelle raise her hand, please? I see her. You're on.
I would actually like to just pass to Janae Cummings if she's still on.
Sure.
Janae Cummings.
We can make art with these cotton balls.
Hi, I think the first thing I'd like to say is that, as Lauren said, Mr. Spoonmore, your job does not supersede Black lives. I don't care where you have to go. It's not more important than what we're saying right now. And so I think it's Eric Evans who said that he didn't know who to call on because who's Black enough? You need to recuse yourself. There's absolutely no reason to speak that way in this forum to these people. We have serious things that we need to deal with. We have lives that need to be saved. And your concern about who's Black enough is the kind of flippant, disgusting remark that gets us to a place like we are today. Generally, I'm here to represent the queer community, the Black queer community in particular. There are so few of us, but what I know is that the queer community generally in Bloomington is often used as the low-hanging fruit for our law enforcement officers to kind of say that they're doing the right thing. They want to reach out to us. They want to kind of like gloss over and pretend that we're nice to you. We're nice to you queers. And so look how progressive and wonderful we are, when this is not the case. It is all surface, it is all glossed over, and we are dying here, we are dying elsewhere, and it is vital that you listen to the people who are most marginalized, because the people in the rural area on the west side don't care about Black lives, Ms. Munson. They don't care, and they're going to show up to the town hall and overwhelm, and that's gonna be where you take this vote. You need to listen to the people who are underserved and underprotected in this community, and maybe shift your perspectives a bit, learn about some anti-racism, read some books, speak to people, and actually educate yourselves so that you can learn how to make this the community that you pretend that it is. There is a long way that Bloomington has to go. There is a level to which that Bloomington thinks about itself, and it is not there. It is a very, very long march to getting there. And I suggest you all start putting in the work and being uncomfortable and learning. I could pass this back to Jada, but anyone else? That's all I had to say.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Cummings. Do we have anybody else who would like to speak?
We got Jada. Jada has her hand up again.
Please, go ahead.
I want to echo what Janae is saying there, that that oftentimes that the Black queers are put, queers in general are put up as like, this is there. We have gay police officers on our staff, so therefore we're diverse. So therefore we understand the plight of people. I also want to echo, yes, we are dying. That you guys have the ability to do this vote now, and to vote no on no new cops. I want to state very clearly to everyone that's on the county council, if you would like to learn more about how to become an anti-racist, Black Lives Matter has a huge anti-racist resource list on our website that you can go read books, look at articles. This weekend, Saturday at 3, we are having a online protest for those, especially those who are concerned about COVID safety, to learn and educate yourself about what it means to be an anti-racist. And we will be talking specifically about defunding the police, about what over-policing looks like and leads to, about militarization of the police and what that leads to. And that we are often do better without having the police involved. This is whenever the police go on strike in big cities, crime rates go down. So tell me about that. Like this happens all over. I do not see anyone else besides Michelle Moyd on here that possibly would want to be talking. Michelle, would you like to take over from here?
I'm happy to pass it to Jay Weeks, who's been also trying to speak. Jay Weeks.
Yes, Jay Weeks.
I'm not seeing. Is his or her hand up?
I don't know. I've been seeing in the chat.
Oh, there we go. There's Jay Weeks.
Hello, everybody. My name is Janai Weeks. I go by Jay. I'm a recent graduate from Indiana University and also one of the many organizers of the Enough is Enough peaceful protest that is happening tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. I wanted to say a few things. I've been on here listening. I appreciate everybody's comments. I also want to express that in order to debunk this situation and prevent things that have been happening across our nation here in Bloomington, Indiana, I think it would be very, very appropriate to have diversity and inclusion training that is incorporated within the police academy so that new police and old police and people who are serving, right, to serve and protect can be very well educated on issues about race and discrimination and stereotyping and what that means. Also, in addition to, I want to ask everyone to really just address your heart at this time, right? Address your heart and who you are and where you stand. So you're either going to stand with us or you're going to not stand with us and stand in that. I feel like if we start seeing everybody as human beings, this conversation would be a lot easier to go by and things will be a lot very well received, right? And so I do want to ensure you that the march that is happening tomorrow is a peaceful protest. It is not to riot. It is not to loot. It's not to disrespect anybody in any type of way. But what it is to unify the people of Bloomington to where we can all stand in solidarity together and fight for the same cause. So with that being stated, you are either fighting with us or you're not. And pick a side. And I think that is very important to consider and include within your own self because it starts individually. Before we could ever come together collectively and be on one page, we have to check ourselves and see what we want for ourselves. And is this right in our hearts? And then come together and express those things that are going on. So I just wanted to come on here and express that. I appreciate everybody and thank you for the chance so that I can express that. And I hope to see you all at the peaceful protest tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Weeks. Do we have any other members of the public who would like to address the council?
Ricky Mauser has had his or her hand up for a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. So many of you have been willing to take the tiny symbolic step of saying Black Lives Matter today, but I'm curious how many council members are also willing to take more substantial steps of committing themselves to freezing hiring or even defunding the Bloomington Police Department. Thank you. One by one, please.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Mauser. Are there any other public comments for council?
Vox Booker has his hand up.
Hello, Mr. Booker.
Hello, council. Oh, first of all, thank you all for making sure that the public can engage in this process. I know it might have been unexpectedly tumultuous, but I just wanted to chime in to maybe get some context to why folks are so adamant about this issue. Policing in America has always been a deeply problematic thing, especially for African Americans, Black folks like myself. And I want to make sure that the council is sensitive to the impact of the statement that they're going to make with however they decide to vote on this. It may just seem like a very simple procedural thing to some of you folks, but it's going to send a very loud message to the community, especially when it comes to the sheriff's department. For years, we've seen folks ask them to have better conditions in the jail, to stop any voluntary cooperation with ICE. And in a lot of ways, I think folks have felt like that's fallen on deaf ears. So I think the council should be very mindful of how this will really affect folks, because even though you guys will go on about your daily lives, people that live here are going to remember this message, and it's really going to resonate with them, how the elected officials just take the time to consider their emotions. We've been going without these positions for a while now. Now really isn't the time, I think, to change that, especially when we're seeing mass unrest and calls throughout the nation divest from policing and investigate alternative means of community safety. So once again, I would like to thank the council for your time. I appreciate you guys greatly. And I don't envy the decisions that you have to make.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Booker. Do you have any further public comment?
Blake has their hand up.
Hi, Ricky asked a very clear yes or no question, and it was said in this group discussion by other Black leadership members that we need to be asking uncomfortable questions. And so I would just like to reinstate Ricky's question to the council, one by one, yes or no, and just be upfront. Are you willing to defund the police? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Blake. Are there any other public comments for council? Okay. I don't see any. Are there, just want to do one last check. Are there any additional public comments at this time?
Lisa Marie has raised their hand.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So first question is, I want to know, I probably know, but I want everyone else on this thread to know how many people of color are on the city council. And then my second question or comment is, if the mayor and Brad Swain and council members and anyone else at City Hall, for all that matters, is concerned, as they just said, with white supremacy and Black Lives Matter, and they care about people of color, where is Brad at right now? Where is our mayor at right now when there are white supremacists at our farmers market? You have spoke about this is a safe and civil city. I don't know who said that in the beginning, but they're wrong. I am only an activist for Purple Shirt Brigade and No Space for Hate and the disabled community. But you know what? I have common sense to know that this city is not safe or civil. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Okay, so we're gonna,
Yeah, right.
is there any further public comment? If not, we will adjourn the meeting. I appreciate again everybody's participation here today, and we will
Josh.
get the venue set here.
Josh Davis has raised his hand, Eric.
Okay.
Thank you. Council members, will you vote on the proposal on the table today? I understand that it has been withdrawn and it would be considered impolite, but it is not against the rules to still vote. Will you vote?
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Davis. We have no proposal.
So, hi everybody who's still here. It looks like a few of my colleagues are jumping back on. I wanted to explain for those of you who were on the meeting and it just abruptly ended that it was a Zoom phenomenon. We didn't just intentionally cut the meeting off, but another Zoom meeting had been scheduled in that room, and therefore, as it automatically started, it shut down the meeting that was going on. We've kind of scrambled with the texts back and forth trying to figure out what to do and how to fix. So we're back up, and not everyone's going to get the message because there are only a few of us here. But I felt like we felt like it was important to at least come back on and let everybody know that that was not something that we intended to have happen.
Point of order. The meeting was not adjourned, correct?
Right. So it's still going on.
Okay.
I was going to give a couple more minutes here to see if Councilor Munson or Spoonmore were jumping back on. I know that we've all got other things going on, and I'm sure that we won't regain quite the audience we had before, but right now we have a quorum though, so we can proceed, right? Cool. I would like then to go ahead and adjourn the meeting in the interest of making that kind of official. We've covered all the business that we were going to cover. Obviously, it didn't end quite the way we wanted with the technical glitch. For anyone who is still listening, I apologize for the sudden and abrupt Zoom ending. As I mentioned just a moment ago, we did not intend to have that happen. Another meeting was scheduled for the Zoom room, and so it automatically started and booted everybody out. And it took us a little bit of time to figure that out and get back started. But thank you for Technical Services Department figuring out how to get us back in here real quick. So I move to adjourn.
You actually don't need a motion to adjourn when you're at the end of the agenda.
Cool. This is why I'm not president.
Yet.
Yeah. I see there are some comments. Thanks everybody for all your comments. I'm going to be reviewing those. Appreciate it. But at this point, we probably should then adjourn and say goodbye.
Thank you.